Which science, by definition, allows for more than one opinion. Otherwise, you merely have the will of one man, which is the basis of cult.
If it's not in frame, it doesn't exist.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!
I'm funny how? I mean funny like I'm a clown and you lose you?
Where you been?
Drunk.
Wendy, darling, light of my life.
What's your one purpose in life?
To explode, of course.
I like death with sex. How about you, Casey? You like sex with death?
Yeah, so fuck off and die.
We need to start putting more like rage bait out there.
Yeah,
or just
right.
be like Bullitt, greatest movie ever, the best chase scene that's ever existed in chase scene cars. And
I know.
They'll be like,
More, yeah, just like get people to engage with us with all the rage. It's like you do it that it's the best movie ever, and then I'm gonna say, Bullitt's a piece of shit. Steve McQueen deserved to die. All this just to see.
He flipped his car.
10 crazy facts about Bullitt that you would never. Anyway, we're talking about Bullitt. This is the Cultist Cinema Knowledge podcast.
Steve McQueen was in Pizzagate.
Yeah, right. click here.
That's the official stance of Cultist Cinema Knowledge.
Yeah, that's right. What year did he died in like the 80s, right?
He died in 1980. So.
Oh, okay. Anyway, so we're talking about Bullitt, right? Obviously, that movie, which I'd always seen the posters. I feel like I'd always because I'm not very versed in like Steve McQueen, because you've never seen this movie, right?
No, and you know what? Fun fact: this is the first Steve McQueen film I've seen.
Really?
I've never seen all of Cool Hand Luke, and so.
Well, that's not Steve McQueen, right? Because I was getting.
Is that not Steve McQueen? Well, then I'm mixing him up.
Yeah, I was mixing him up too. With why am I spacing his name? Oh my god!
Oh my god! No, then he's not in. Oh my god! See, we're like
James Dean.
Oh my god, James
Dean.
James Dean
That's
was only in 3 movies. Yeah,
that's who I would. Because that's who you were thinking of.
No.
Who's also not in Cool Hand Luke, but I was also thinking of James Dean originally, and then I was like, oh, this is Steve McQueen.
It's because they're both like Steve McQueen. He was like the adult heartthrob, where, yeah,
right.
Oh my god, I'm like,
no, it's so funny because
Okay.
James Dean. I'm not very versed with James Dean either, clearly, but fucking right. Steve McQueen. Yeah, I got them mixed up initially because I had thought that it was James Dean in Bullitt. And then so I was watching it, and then I was like, oh, no, duh. Steve McQueen is the guy from The Blob, and that's what I know him from, is the 50s Blob.
Nope, and that's, yeah.
But also, he's in Magnificent Seven, which is the only other one I've seen. I've seen those two. But I don't know. Going into this movie, it was odd. It was odd for me because, I was like, not prepared for what it was, and I didn't really know what to expect, right? And so, booted up the movie. Do you have a? Let me do a quick synopsis. Let's see if I can remember. I'm gonna just blow through it. For those of you who have not seen Bullitt, because it's over, it's like over 50 years old. This guy, I don't even know exactly what happens at the beginning, but this guy is part of a crime boss family. He gets in a shootout. He goes on the run. He gets put into protection from this police department in San Francisco. And he's like a witness for this big politician guy. I don't know if he's works at the DA, but he's the big hotshot politician guy. And I forget his character's name, even though I liked it. It was like Chutney or something. Anyway,
yeah. Chalmers.
Yeah, Chalmers. Chalmers, that's right.
Walter Chalmers.
Chalmers. And so they put Bullitt, which is like a hot shot, plays by his own rules, lieutenant cop, you know what I mean? Even though he's just, he's kind of a regular guy and he bends some rules.
It's casual Friday for that guy.
It is. So he puts him on it and a couple of his buddies. And so they're like, all right, we'll keep this guy locked down for until the weekend, and then we'll for witness protection. And then but while another cop is guarding him in this hotel, fucking this guy comes up and shotguns them both. It's a professional hit, obviously seeking him out. He knows, shotguns the cop, shotguns fucking Eddie Rodriguez or whatever the fuck his name is. I forget all the characters. My brain was melted when I watched this last night. But shoots them. They live, but they both go to the hospital. And so Bullitt goes to the hospital with his buddies, and he's like, uh-oh. And Chalmers is like, this is on your ass. You are incompetent. And he's like, no, something's fishy. Who else knew about where his location was? And he's like, you better not be accusing me of nothing. And so I thought, anyway, we'll get to it. I thought for sure, I'm like, oh, he's the big baddie. But, and then he never turned out to be anything, really, Chalmers. But he just is like a douchebag politician, I guess. But, so they're at the hospital, and the hitman shows up to try and take him out again. But then the little chase scene ensues, and the hitman gets away. And so they're like, man, we got to lock this hospital down. But then the witness dies he succumbs to his wounds and dies. And so Bullitt's like, oh, fuck. I can't let Chalmers know he dies. He's going to kill the investigation. So he does some little shady stuff, and he takes the body and he steals it away and puts it in the morgue under John Doe so that they won't know where he is, and they'll think he's alive for like a couple days while he does some sniffing, right? He sniffs around. He's trying to figure out what's what, and then he's getting followed by the hitman. They're following him now, and he turns it around on them. He's like, he notices he's getting followed, and they both have cool muscle cars, and so Bullitt switches around, chases these guys, these hitmen, and the hitmen are like shooting at him and stuff, and they have a cool chase scene through San Francisco and like the surrounding area. And then the guys like fucking crash into a gas station and burn up. So there's like, he's like another dead end, and the captain's like, God damn it. There's like, your only end there, Bullitt. And then
You're leaving a trail of bodies.
He's leaving a trail of bodies wherever he goes. And then, they eventually find the fucking chick. I don't know. It kind of falls apart. The plot falls apart at the end for me.
No, well, what happens? Do you know what happens at the end? This is, I pieced it together.
You're the Bullitt.
The person that they were guarding at the beginning, that person under witness protection, they were a plant.
Yeah, he was not the real guy they thought he was.
The real guy is still on the run, on the lam, and they found that out because the girlfriend got killed, or the guy's girlfriend that got killed. So then the guy was very. I do not understand exactly that minute detail, but a woman ends up dead, and that's what the catalyst that I still at large because they find evidence in the hotel room, and then he goes on a chase and he finds out that the guy is taking an international flight out of America, and it's to London. Right?
Yeah,
to the
Rome,
airport.
Whatever.
They get to the
Who
airport,
cares? Who
and then-
cares? Like,
and then he sleuths him out, and he finds him, and then he shoots him
they have a little.
right.
They have a big long chase scene at the airport, and then he shoots him.
Cops win
Bullets. Thank God for the cops.
every day.
One
every day.
for the good. One for the good guys.
One for the good guys.
And then Bullitt's girlfriend's like, "You're too desensitized, Mr. Bullitt." And then he goes home and he like looks at himself, has a long look in the mirror, and he's like,
Yeah.
"Yep." The end.
He opens the door. He sees that she's still in there because his schizophrenia was kicking in, and he's like,
I thought
she's real.
I got really disappointed. So we'll get into impressions here in a minute. But I thought his girlfriend, who was useless in this movie, practically, except for that one scene, like you say.
There are two women in this movie, and one woman blew flute, dude. And I was
she
in
did.
love with her. That was amazing.
No, I thought for sure. So early on, I got kind of excited. I was like, "Oh, this is a cool dynamic," because he goes to the restaurant and he sees this redheaded chick, right? And he's like, "Hey," and then the next thing he's in bed with her, and it's like, "Oh," and then like, "Oh, they're like dating." It's like a thing,
Yeah.
They like met up there. I don't know if it was time passed or I think it was more just like, hey, we're meeting up there or whatever. But and then in the next scene, the cop that got shot in the leg, his wife's in the hospital, and she's like a redhead, and I was like, "Oh, that's his wife." I'm like, Bullitt is banging. That's why he's so invested in this dude surviving.
Okay.
I'm like, he's banging his wife, and then I'm like, and then it turns out that's not even it.
It's not. No.
It would have been
Do
so
you
much
know
better
what?
if it was, though. I don't know.
you know what's amazing with this movie? Was it just me, or did every single person look identical?
Oh, everyone looked the same.
I literally don't know what was happening. Like, I was watching a scene, and they were like, the camera, and this movie, when I'm gonna go do the survey on Reddit, everybody out there in podcast land, come to Reddit,
yes,
do the survey. The cinematography in this movie is the most stagnant thing I've ever seen in my entire life. It is wild. It's shot like a TV procedural.
Yeah, it's because it is a
like,
procedural for sure. Like it kind of sets
right.
it up. I don't know. I liked the cinematography early on because early on it felt to me
in the hospital that is such a slog.
Yeah,
holy shit! That second act in the hospital is such, and that second act comes fast too. It's like maybe 15 minutes into it. Like after the inciting incident, they're in the hospital. They're in that hospital for far too long.
I could live. I agree. I could live with the hospital because, like, all right, let's back it up. So, my impressions, I was like, okay, this movie is highly regarded. It's the best driving movie. It obviously won. Several people wanted to watch it. I put it on, and I was fucking hooked. Like the opening scene with the fucking jazz music and like the sick ass credit sequence. The title sequence was so dope.
The credits were beautiful. Loved that. That was like, they were like amazing because they're all, I don't know how they did it, how they like created them back then.
No, back then, yeah, 68.
Yeah.
And then it's like, and then there's like the like kind of shootout and scuffle, and you're like, oh, what's this all about, you know? And then like hopefully you're like gonna find out, and so you're excited. And then you're like, okay, Bullitt's life. He's got this guy in protection, shady fucking politician. And then they're like doing the stakeout. I'm like, okay, where's this going? And then the guy busts in, blasts the two dudes with a shotgun, which I wasn't expecting that kind of violence, because earlier on I was like, this just seems like it reminds me of like a slightly sexier, raw version of like, you know, Alfred Hitchcock. Like it very much reminded me of like a Vertigo, or
takes place in San Francisco,
right, Vertigo, or like North by Northwest. It has that like thriller vibe, but like, you know, new decade, new rules, baby. We've got jazz and we got handheld cameras now. Fuck you, and blood, and it's paint. You know what I mean? Which you know how I feel about that paint blood.
I thought it looked amazing.
Yeah, me and you were there for the hyper 70s paint blood. So, you know, I wasn't expecting it because it's, you know, 60s, but and I thought this was like a PG rated movie. It's fairly violent for that. But so I was like, oh dude, this is dope. By the time the shootout happened and they're going to the hospital, I'm like, I am so on board with this movie. And then I'm like, there's no driving yet, but I'm on board, right?
Like, right. No, it's so funny because we picked this for driving month. And okay, right there. No. You perfectly segued me.
Yeah, dude.
The only thing I knew about this movie is the poster.
Same.
Literally.
Same.
And I knew that it had driving in it. I didn't even know it was cop. I didn't even know it. I didn't know that was like the plot. I thought that he was like a race car driver.
That's kind of what I thought. Yeah.
Some sort of, because like if you look at the poster, now that I look at the poster closer, I can see that he's got like a holster on, and it's like, oh, that's totally like cop fashion, that like holster. But it's still like, looking at the poster that I've seen throughout my life, it's got a car driving really fast on it, and Steve McQueen kind of like leaning like a badass. And so like that's the post. That's what I know. I'm like, okay, there's Steve McQueen, and he's a driver. That's like his thing. He loves to drive, and that's his driving. And so like, I totally just like, I don't know. It's his personal persona got put on this, and so I thought there's going to be so much driving in this movie, but this movie is one driving sequence that is amazing.
It's great.
And I like, that is like credit where credit is due. How they filmed that, and it's very thrilling. I mean, now in modern times, it's like, you know, they drive like cars off of a blimp into like, you know, in Dubai or something. Like it's like, you know, they driving a car in 2024.
Coming from
it's like kung fu, like it's like,
well,
it's insane.
Coming
So,
from
like,
last week watching
really,
Death Proof, it's like obviously Death Proof has got kind of the final sequence in Death Proof has got a lot crazier driving than this. But this sequence, like, I was interested because up until this point, is like had all this like moody jazz music, but then there was no music at all during this chase sequence. It was just all screeching tires and revving engines, which I thought was a kind of an interesting, cool choice.
And that was 100% stylistic. Like they meant to do that on purpose, and I think it works really well.
I think actually rules for this chase scene, not the other one.
Oh, what do you mean for the human chase scene?
The airport chase scene, which we'll get to.
The airport.
The airport chase scene that was twice as long as the driving chase scene, and it's not as thrilling with no music when it's just like squeaking sneakers. Like it sucks.
Right. No, I agree and that's way too long. But by that point, I was like,
I could handle the hospital, dude. I could handle the hospital because I was like, dude, Black Doctor, 1968, good for them.
Yeah. No, right. And no, I love that. Like that is. They're like, no, we're on the side of the doctor, like that, and that's cool. I'm like, fuck yeah, dude.
And he's like, let's fudge the rules a little bit. And he's like, all right, man, yeah, fuck that guy.
It's slightly white saviory, but it's fine. It's totally chill. Like they're both collaborating. Like I liked it. I was like, I'm like 68, good for you.
I was there for it, but dude, the fucking airport. And like everything up to like the second, that's why I was so bummed, man. Because like honestly,
I don't know. I disagree. The airport was super fun because like this movie and like Vertigo, I was feasting on the film history that we got with this. Like being able to see the like real world.
That's cool. Yeah.
The like it felt like in okay, just real quick. A fun fact. This is something I learned. San Francisco at the time. They were hurting to have film companies come and like they were hurting to have people come shoot movies, and so they offered a lot of tax breaks and a lot of carte blanche to everywhere, to the cities, to the airport, pretty much everywhere except the Golden Gate Bridge, which they wanted to shoot on the Golden Gate Bridge, but that was way too much because like they were able to shut down parts of San Francisco for like 3 weeks to shoot that chase scene. And they wanted to do that at the Golden Gate Bridge, but the sequence wasn't allowed. Anyways, it was too cumbersome. But beyond that, it's like San Francisco was totally down for them. So they were shooting in the airport, and like it was like a huge production. And I think that like that is amazing to see. I really liked watching the airport sequence because like people are like smoking, and it was just I don't know. It felt so like real and alive, and that was actually some of the best cat and mouse. Like I thought that had the greatest like suspense, but I do understand. No, I understand. It's pretty once they get outside. I was like, okay, this is kind of like he gets under the plane, and like a lot of it is like there you can see that you can hear like a blowhorn, and he's waiting to move, and then he comes running up. That it's a little like
so
it feels chopped together.
Yeah, let me bring it back to why early on I thought that the methodical procedural nature of the film was an asset, right? So I was like, oh, okay, cool. The details matter. Like he's very much like going through the scene. He's like getting everything, checking the boxes at the hospital. And when he's chasing the guy, he's very much like it takes its the to do stuff. And that is kind of a thing of the era, right? Like older movies, they do kind of like, they kind of like the guy would run up here and he would look at this and he would do this. And like, in modern days, they're like, that's all bullshit. Just fucking cut around that. You know what I mean? And we need to keep it fast.
Yeah. Well, I think it also helps that like your audience kind of knows what's going to happen. So like,
right. But I liked that earlier on, but then it's like later, by the time we got to the airport, I mean, I was kind of like starting to get annoyed, a little frustrated before that, even with like them going through like all the luggage. It was like just so tedious. But at the airport, there was some cat and mouse, like when he's eyeballing him, and then like when they get back in after the chase scene and he's trying to find him in the crowd, and the music picks back up and it's all like tense cat and mouse. But like literally the amount of time it took for the plane, they're like, stop that plane, and they're like, all right.
They literally had a taxi.
The whole thing.
Waved it in. Like it was like I was waiting to get off the plane.
Dude.
Infuriated.
That's what I'm saying. He called from the time he was like, we need to stop this plane. They went through all the systems to stop it, taxi it, bring it back, have him go on the plane, have everyone disembark from the plane.
Deboard. When they were deboarding, they were the most polite. Dude, in 2024, you're going to have some guy with his mask below his nose going like, you can't make me get off the plane. Like, dude, it's like everyone was so polite. They were like, how long do you think it'll take, ma'am? She's like, oh, about 45 minutes.
Someone would get fucking killed. Before.
Yeah, it's like nowadays there'd be some guy with hypertension, like a red
a fucking marshal would shoot that guy. Yeah.
I know. Yeah, it was. I just loved it because everyone was so. But it was, dude. I do agree. It was so.
That scene,
it was so numbing.
the methodical.
Like,
I get it because it's like, okay, that's the thing. But this is a 2-hour runtime. That scene took longer than the fucking chase scene. Like I don't know, like. By then, it wasn't feeling tense to me. Like I feel like this movie could have cut easily 20 minutes, just like here and there, just to kind of move things along. And it wasn't even like the pacing of the film, because the pacing of the whole film was pretty good. But the pacing of individual scenes, where it's like each individual scene has such a slow flow to it, where sometimes, like I said earlier on, the methodical nature really works. It builds the tension. You're looking at the details, and then it's like, then there's like this hyper violence or some action or or like an on foot chase scene, something. But then like later, like after a while, I'm just like, I get it, man. Like I get it. Like I think you're going through the stuff, and then it doesn't even matter. Like so much of the details that I was like, okay, it's all going to come together. There's going to be an explosive climax, bombshell. Chalmers is behind the whole thing. Obviously, he's the bad guy because he's so obviously the bad guy, and then he's not. And I'm like, well, fuck me. I guess I'm an idiot, but.
Right. You're like, oh, yeah. I mean, like that. I think that might have been like one step too far. And then this movie is it's adapted off of a book that's not even remotely close to what we got. And so
it's just like the character.
Literally, yes. It's like so weird that happens where a studio buys the rights to a novel and the adaptation. And then they write a screenplay, and then it gets completely changed. And like Bullitt, the original is Bullitt is a kind of, he's not lazy. He's just like he couldn't care less. And he's kind of a chubby Detroit police officer that just loves eating ice cream, and he's just kind of like he's on the beat. He's not like as methodical as Bullitt. And like, it's kind of wild to be like, you take a character, and then they were like, okay, now this is IRL. We can shoot in San Francisco for cheap. Let's go there. So let's change that one detail, which sure, fine. But then they make Bullitt like crazy, like, out of pocket. He's just like, plays by his own rules, even though it's so funny how like how not
he's not
crazy.
that wild. He's a little unorthodox. He hides the body, and he hangs up on his captain.
He doesn't do it by the book, but like he even does write a report. But anyways, it's like
I know he's literally like, I got your report right here, bro.
This movie, like what it could have cut out is actually a lot of probably subtleties that us now in 2024 can't appreciate. I don't think I understand. Like there's a large scene where the captain, the big guy who's like going to church with his kids.
Yeah.
And there's a scene when he talks to Chalmers, and I can't really tell you the nitty-gritty and details of that scene, but I'm like, I feel like all of that could have been cut. Like there's probably something in there that's important.
That was another
that's
scene.
A lot of this movie.
I liked that scene at the time because I thought it was building up the conspiracy. Because it's like earlier on, Chalmers is like, Bullitt's like, who else knew about his location? And Chalmers is like, you don't need to worry about that. Or what are you insinuating? You need to worry that you had to protect him and you failed and you're a fuck up and I'm going to nail you to the wall, Bullitt. And so it's like, oh, this guy's obviously so fucking self-interested. He's just burning Bullitt. So obviously he's the villain. And it's like, there's a conspiracy. I don't really understand what was happening at the very beginning of the movie. You know what I mean? In that, like, with the smoke grenade and that fucking...
You know how frustrating... I know. What was that? I think that was just... So what that is just like at the beginning of Dawn of the Dead, the 1977, is... or 78, whatever. you know how it shows them raid that apartment building. It's like I think that's just showing like these cops do dangerous things. They go against criminals, you know. So it's like setting the world for like what you're gonna get. But I do agree. I'm like, were we supposed to know any of these characters in that scene? Because everyone looks so similar. Like when Steve McQueen came on the first time I saw him, I was like, it took me like 4 minutes to be like, oh, that's Steve McQueen.
Was he in that scene?
No, I don't think so.
No, okay. It was the guy. I thought it was the guy that they were trying to protect. I thought it was
his partner.
Dude, I thought it was the witness. I have no idea.
Oh, that would make sense then if he's the witness and he saw something.
But the witness, his whole angle is that he was like running the books for the fucking Chicago crime family. And he had all their money, but then like shit popped off and got violent. And so he ran and he got protection from Chalmers. And so I'm like, what is the connection between this dude and Chalmers? And how did he die? Like, why did he unlock the deadbolt? Like, or the chain? That was like a huge point of contention. And it was what? Because his girlfriend wanted to come fuck him or something? Like, I don't get it.
Right. Like, I didn't understand how he got up too. Remember? It was like on the phone he said like, yes, we're with the Department of Police here. Let me in. And the guy's like, the police officer there that was on the phone was like, okay. And then they got shot. I was so confused.
Yeah. Well, the doorman or whatever got knocked out because later they're trying to interview him. And he's like, they hit me, you know, and knocked me out. And he's like, you better start remembering details. And that's when they had the...
Oh, that was the front.
That was the front desk. That was the front desk guy.
And when they're showing him those pictures of like, it's like, does he have a jaw like this? Like he's like, nah, a little more square, like whatever.
It's like it's all coming back to me. And I'm like,
it's all coming. Yeah.
And I'm like, that's where I thought it was all gonna matter more because the dudes used Chalmers' name to get in, and that's why he's like, I feel like there was something cut at the end that they didn't do because he's literally like, Bullitt's even like, they used your name to like, what's the deal? And I'm like, is he just a red herring? Because it turns out that it's just like the guy,
the crime syndicate. The crime syndicate's that smart, and they're trying to outsmart the cops, you know, by
that's fine,
by playing him against them. Yeah, but
being just the crime syndicate and being him on the run, the hitmen are just trying to just resolve this guy from testifying, I guess, like arbitrarily against whatever. Like we don't even know what the case is. I just like, that's what bummed me out. It's like the details, like for being so methodical, the details did not matter, and the overall grand quote unquote conspiracy or like crime ended up being so kind of muddy and messy and like not interesting. It was very kind of like anticlimactic, where it's like, oh, this guy we were protecting was actually a patsy, like sort of like set up. He wasn't the real guy. And then so I'm like, okay, so why the fuck is this guy there and going along with that? Like, what is his angle? I know he's got his girlfriend. He's obviously getting a payout or something. And then the guy at the end, like, I don't know. It's like, it's just lamer. It's just lamer.
Maybe.
Yeah. But
do you know what? I wish I was so prepared. So that's what I think. That's what's funny is like watching this movie now with our lens. It's like I was waiting. The fact that they kept like, I understand the implications of the windows. And like, I think that was supposed to be like, whatever, a red herring subterfuge. You're supposed to be like, oh shit, something dangerous is going to come through the windows, because they mentioned that like 3 times. Stay away from the windows. Ooh, these windows. Who picked this apartment? These windows in the apartment. Everyone be careful. And they kept like showing outside and like all the cars coming by, like where it was, where it's like, I guess it would have been easy to spot him in there or something from like the freeway, you know, or whatever. And I kept like being like, oh, the windows are going to be like, something is going to be important with this.
Everything lined up to be that it was a setup, right?
It was a setup, right? But then
he's in this janky apartment. Nah, dude,
maybe we missed something.
I don't know, because it's like Chalmers set it up. I thought like for sure he was going to turn out to be crooked, and it would have been
our headcanon.
It would have been predictable, but it would have been better, honestly, because then what we got was so messy. Like, I don't know.
But I think outside of plot, I think what we got was a beautiful depiction of the time. Like, I think that they did that on purpose. I think Steve McQueen brought a lot of like his coolness into it, because he was the one that found that they're called Meridian West, and they were that jazz band. Nice. So when he's there and he's watching them play, and that woman's on the flute, like that's a band that he knew of, and so he brought them in the movie. And so it's just like, I feel like that's what a lot of these movies are is like they're just kind of like the plot is not as important as like just kind of moving the story along, and like I don't know, it's weird. Steve McQueen,
I agree.
His acting is fine.
He's got a pretty good presence. Yeah, it's
I mean that's just what it is, right?
His
He's just
acting's
kinda
not.
cool.
Yeah, he's just kind of cool, and he's got like a manly presence. I mean, he's rocking that turtleneck. He's going on a chase scene with the turtle. I'm so mad. I don't know if I'm just out of shape or what, but after that chase scene, when they just run in there, they're just sweating, but neither of them are breathing hard at all. They're just like,
Yeah. Well, no, and I'm like the thing is, they were running, dude. Everyone in that movie was like running full speed, and I'm like, they do this. They're gonna have to do this take like 4 times. Like, are they taking a break in between? I was like getting tired for him.
it's not cool for Bullitt to run up and be like, oh fuck,
Yeah.
those stairs. But like, no, it's cool. He's that's the thing. It's like, from everything I've said this last little bit, you might think I hate this movie. I don't. I actually quite like it because it is like the vibes. Like the plot was disappointing. Like it started off pretty strong. I think I was interested in the mystery, and it kind of fell apart for me. I thought Bullitt's girlfriend was absolutely fucking useless as a character. Like, why even have her at this point?
I mean, she literally was just there for the one line.
But
she was there to pose. She was there to pose the dangers of his job, and then the sacrifices that men make to keep the city streets safe. You know,
Yeah.
that's her whole plot device.
But it was like
And
they were
I think
writing.
she performs it well. I do love that scene. Like,
Yeah.
that honestly would probably be my favorite scene in the whole movie is when she sees like the body, and then they drive away, and she like gets out, and she's just like, you know, what you do is so awful. Like, what does she say too? She's like, you work in a sewer.
Something like that. Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
No, that's fine. And but it kind of feels like they forgot to give Bullitt, like, they're like, we got to give him some kind of characterization. Like, what if his girlfriend's like points out how cold and jaded he is? I'm like, yeah, that works, I guess, you know, because it does,
right.
because he's just cool and chill and just like goes with the punches, desensitized to violence and all that. But the overall vibe of this movie, because it's like the old school 60s vibe, the music especially was fucking dope. I absolutely loved the score. Was great. And it's like the chase scenes were cool. Like, it was thrilling and it was interesting. And I liked Bullitt. I thought he was like, Steve McQueen was a good presence, right? And so it's like, overall, I liked it more than I disliked it. I was just disappointed because this is such a classic, apparently. And so I guess maybe it was hyped up a little bit. And then,
I think what we just came off of French Connection a few months ago.
Right.
And I think now I have a deeper appreciation for French Connection.
Same.
On its intensity.
I was
like,
going to say, yeah.
You know, where like that's what's cool about film is to see it like they're so close together. You know, they're 71 was that, or 72 something maybe?
Yeah,
for French Connection?
72, 71, something like that.
And so it like that was just like, it's grittier, even though, you know, go listen to that podcast, but I'm pretty sure in that we kind of mentioned how kind of dated it looks, but like,
I had similar problems. I know that of that era too.
The plot structure was just kind of, it's weird. The 60s have such a weird storytelling device to it, where it's like, I think there are like certain criteria that need to be met in a film, and so they kind of just like, instead of like making a deeper, like larger, you know, story arc, they're like, all right, we have to like, the character has to get to this position, you know, and to get to point A to point B to point C, and whatever happens in between, just kind of, you know, jazz, baby. Just
literally. Well, right? I think we get lost in the sauce. Like, I love the 60s and 70s. Don't get me wrong, I love those eras of film for sure. But like, coming from the quote unquote golden age of the 40s and 50s, where everything was so structured and so sterile and very just like everything was done. There was a right way and there was a wrong way. And then when you got into the 60s more, it was a little bit more like loosey goosey, and into the 70s where it's like, obviously you're getting a little bit more like, maybe not independent film, but like more low budget, more risks. But it's like in that time period, late 60s, early 70s, they like were like trying to transition away from like the hard structure of the golden age, but they just like it's just chaos kind of. Like I don't know, there's like I understand that's like a lot of the time is the time period, but it's if it's not have a cohesive story, that's fine. Or like a plot that really makes sense or even matters. Like a lot of times the plots like are secondary to like what you get, what the emotion you take away from the film.
Yeah.
But
and the thrill.
Yeah.
I mean that's what they're doing. This is a like thrilling entertainment. You know, they're not trying to be like as psychological and like and you know the deep trauma that Bullitt's going through. It's supposed to be like Bullitt does this because he's got to, and it's like he'll do whatever it takes, and that's kind of it.
I just wish it was 90 minutes because
100%. This could be their half hour could be shaved off this movie so easily, and I will condense it in my head from like what I remember.
Always do.
And I'll be like okay, sick. This is like I have a fonder memory of this film.
I always if I'm leaning on the pendulum of like like it or dislike it, however much. If I'm like right in the middle, and if I lean towards like it, I will with time. It grows fonder in the heart. Because even this movie, I feel bad because this movie made me kind of appreciate. Because I like this movie, even though I've been talking a lot of shit. This movie made me appreciate not only the French Connection more, which we had our problems with as well, but did quite enjoy also, but Vertigo as well, which I had the same kind of issues with Vertigo.
Right.
And it's like, but in my mind, both of those movies, in retrospect, I'm like, yeah, Vertigo's pretty good. I think I would like it more a second time with like
Probably.
knowing where it goes and having kind of managed expectations.
I'm still burnt. Yes, the managed expectations, because like this film, I will be burnt on its on some of its like meandering. Just sometimes, and I think that also is cultural or whatever, like for the time period in that decade. I think people just there was like a different kind of like cadence to film. Like there was, but it's like
and
it's
I
just
get
like,
it.
it's kind of hard to watch it now.
Yeah,
because I like that's with like Vertigo. I was like the amount of car scenes. I was like, dude, this could literally be 35 seconds of just like the how much like just slow creeping car. And that happened in this movie to an extent where like I'm just like I like them being in the car and it's immersive, but I also am just kind of like there's a lot of like he's in a car wash and they're in a car and like that's just what this movie has. There's a lot of like it shows kind of everything like docking the plane.
Part of what makes film the best artistic medium, in our opinion,
I
mean, we have a film.
Everybody's
we have a film podcast. Of course, that's our opinion. But is because it's like the magic. You don't have to do that. Like there's so many. You can use movie magic to make anything you want, and like to move these things along. And I get back then. It is like audiences want to see like what these cops are doing. Like they want to see the process. And like, I get sometimes in my head canon with some films or books that I'm like, I want to know how they got from point A to point B specifically. But if it's just, 8 straight minutes of them docking a plane, I don't need to know that. You could just cut to them having docked the plane. It's fine.
Right.
And I guess that's fine because it's like, we are spoiled, like you said. Nowadays, we have, this is over 50 years ago, we have had our entire lifetimes of seeing these procedural, like, cop shows and, like, all this other stuff. And obviously the internet and just, like, everything being fast. But also...
Yeah, and edgier. Like, this movie, for the time, this was mature. This was, like...
Of course.
This was considered very, very, like, thrilling and violent. And this was the first movie to have the bloody squibs.
Cool.
So that's like that was kind of the film history when I read that.
They look good.
Okay, cool, respect, because that is like I did notice that like when he gets blasted at the end, I was like, oh wow, that is pretty graphic. And when he falls, it like they're showing it like it looks like bullet wounds. Like it looks.
I like
pretty,
that. Yeah.
It
no,
looks
the violence is great, but like, yeah, my point exactly is like. back then, maybe people they didn't get to see this kind of stuff. So when I went to the theater in 1968 to see Bullitt, I'm not like, oh, get on with it. I don't care what's in the suitcase, like if it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? I don't care that he washes his car.
They had a guy, and he was just like, he's writing in that huge giant book, you know, and he's reading all the things, and they're like one comb,
yeah, exactly,
64 tooth comb, one.
And in 1968, maybe someone they go to see, oh shit, this is a cop drama, dude. I'm seeing the gritty, how the cops operate. This is fascinating. Us in 2024, it's like, yeah, it's they're taking evidence, man. I've seen this 100 million times. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's not totally fair. I'm just saying, it's I'm not right. I know that it is have to make exceptions from the time.
And that's what's hard is you need to put yourself in that position a little bit, because when you think about it, it's not whatever 60, 68, 67 when this movie came out, 68. It's there were cop shows that came way before this, and they were doing similar things to this, you know. And it's like, God, I want to even see I think La Samurai came out before this movie, and that is that's intense. If you've ever seen that, we don't do this very often, anymore. But if you like this movie, I highly recommend you watch a movie called Les Samurai. It's bonkers.
I've never seen it, and I want to, because remember we actually one time
same year came out came out in 76.
Nice. That's not the same.
67.
67.
So it came out a year before, and it's beautiful.
I know. I want to see it because remember we tried to watch it that one time, but you couldn't find it anywhere. You had to buy it physically is the only way you could get it. And so we ended up changing the movie because it won.
It says it's on Tubi now.
Is it now? Because at the time,
free on Tubi.
couldn't stream it, couldn't buy it. I couldn't even buy a DVD. I was like, I have to go to the fucking Entertain Mart, the used video store that's here. You know what I mean? It's like, how many of those you got?
That sounds like such a fake. That sounds like the most fake place in the world.
Shout out to Entertain Mart. I haven't been there in a while because their hours suck ass. But
it sounds like it's the most fake place I've ever heard of.
It's the last bastion of hope for me. You know me. I used to live in Media Play and FYE.
I know. You like your physical media.
Not anymore. I've broken away from it. My wife broke me of it, and now she's a fucking book collector. And I'm like, here I am trying not to get stuff anymore, but then again, I have an entire office of shelves that reach to the ceiling.
You're effectively a hoarder in there.
What do I know? I've been downsizing, but I don't know. Anyway, this I don't know. I might be in the vibe to watch more movies from this era because I do really. It's got a flavor. You know what I mean? It's a very specific flavor, and obviously. I do feel bad because it's a movie like Bullitt. I'd heard about it. It lived in my mind. Everyone on Reddit was like, yeah, Bullitt. Everyone voted for it. 2 people suggested it. And so that might have been my expectations. Same with watching Vertigo. Same with watching French Connection. That I'm excited to go back and watch these movies that are considered classics and finally knock them off my list. Movies that came out way before my time. But then when I finally see them, I'm like, it doesn't quite hit sometimes the way I wish it would on first viewing. And I think that's obviously a me problem, but I do think they live better in my mind and on a rewatch. I do think this would be better on a rewatch, and I would just fast forward through some of the scenes. You know what I mean?
Dude,
honestly.
Right. Even or just I know what they're coming, so I know they're coming. But dude, do you know what's crazy? So Peter Yates, Steve McQueen wanted Peter Yates to direct this film because he made a movie called Robbery in 1967, and it is bonkers, dude. I'm watching a trailer for it right now. There's this crazy realistic chase scene through London, and it's awesome. Robbery, 1967 by
cool.
Peter Yates. Yeah, dude. So it's I want to check that out now. It looks awesome, dude. It's it made headlines when it happened. It made history when it succeeded. See how 26 men took 25 minutes to steal $10 million.
That's fun.
Sick.
So, did you see that? I want to see if it's still going through, but I guess they were supposed to be remaking Bullitt. They announced it a couple years ago. that old Steven Spielberg was going to remake it.
Huh.
Or like, maybe not remake it, but like use the character Bullitt still.
Sure, right.
Is what it sounded like that he was going to do. And then...
It's called Cars by Pixar.
And it was going to have... who? I just saw it and I missed it again. God damn it. Bradley Cooper, which, is fine. But
okay.
who'd be for some reason I was imagining in my head. So modern day Bullitt, who would you cast?
God, I don't know. That's tricky.
Yeah, I don't know why, but the first person to come to my mind.
I always say Brad Pitt, but who?
Brad Pitt would be. He's too old now, but it would be pretty. He's always
Don't
good
care.
though.
He's so hot.
He is stupid. Brad Pitt.
Do it.
Yeah.
But,
for some reason in my mind, Michael Fassbender. I don't know why. Like I'm just like,
okay,
Michael Fassbender would be a great Bullitt. I think.
No, totally. I could 100%.
I could see Bradley
Cooper. Go to one
Cooper
of the Skarsgårds though. Yeah, Bradley Cooper. Or,
one of the Skarsgårds at this point. I'd give it to Alexander Skarsgård for sure.
Yeah, just one of them. I don't even know. They're interchangeable at this point. It could just be any. It could be all three of them.
They're just switching out during filming.
Yeah, it would make just as much sense as Bullitt did. So, you want to know what the money minute on this bad boy is?
Yes.
Did we get any Reddits?
Untitled Frank Bullitt Project. I was just seeing if Spielberg was still doing it.
Frank Bullitt.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we got one.
Oh, hell yeah.
So
dude.
you give me a money minute, and I'll go ahead and whip that up for you.
Great. Yeah. I mean, this film had a modest budget of $5 million, which is pretty good.
Pretty good, man. Back then, man.
It's like weird. It's weird. I always hate when there's like two vastly different, like IMDb only tells me what the grossing weekend was, and it was $500,000. But then on Wikipedia, it says that this movie made $27 million. So I'm not 100% sure, but I would imagine for its theatrical run. I mean, this is when people saw movies.
Oh yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised at all if it made $27 million.
I could see it. I mean, obviously this is a cult classic, and Steve McQueen. I do like Steve McQueen. You need to watch. Maybe we'll put it on because we watched the Blob remake a couple years ago, the '88 Blob remake. Maybe we'll watch the OG Blob come Horrortober, because the OG Blob is very sterile, but like it holds a special place in my heart, and it's younger. It's younger Steve McQueen, but he's still like 35 playing a teenager. You know what I mean? Like
right, always, yeah. No, that was the one thing about this movie where I'm like, God, this is so classic 60s. I mean, fuck, classic today, dude. Where you have like Steve McQueen's like 60 and his girlfriend's 26. Like it's just like I'm like, all right, we get it.
I just downvoted my own comment. I didn't mean to do that.
No, buddy, lift yourself up.
It's like you fucking
yourself
piece
up,
of,
pal.
that was a bad opinion, and you deserve to be ashamed.
No, you got a great opinion.
So, Clones People 2, I just want to real quick mention that you said this was $5 million, and that's a good budget. And I know the money was bigger back then, obviously. But I just want you to remember a couple weeks ago when you guys were defending The Protector and about its budget, and you're like, that's basically nothing, micro budget. I'm like, this movie should have been made for fucking $100 million.
No, I'm thinking, dude, I'm thinking about 1960s money. $5 million. It's $5 million 1960s. So for inflation, that's like, what? I don't know, 25 million or something. So
yeah, something like that.
I don't know. Yeah, but
anyways. Fucking Clones People 2 says, my first watch of this, I knew it was a classic, and along with most of Steve McQueen, I had filed this as a dad movie. At least my dad loved his films anyway, right? Yeah,
100%. 100%. Nice. Yeah.
It was less gritty than I expected, but it makes sense now that I know this was the bridge between film noir cops that was out of fashion and the gritty crime style of the 70s. While the story was quite simple on paper, I had problems with it, mainly the confusing switcheroo and overthinking if this was a crooked cop story, but it was fine. The editing was a strong point. The chase scenes were full of great tension and really drew me in. The iconic car chase was shorter than I expected and had continuity issues, but was very good. The hills really added to the feeling of jeopardy and knowing a big crash was coming. I really liked the jazzy score, and it was used well. There was a lot of silence in the film to enhance tension. Interestingly, the composer was the same composer from Enter the Dragon, and I see the similarities.
Whoa.
Overall, I enjoy this, but it didn't blow me away. 7 out of 10. What's everyone's favorite Steve McQueen? Mine's The Great Escape. I've never seen The Great Escape. Thanks for
I
commenting.
know.
I need to.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we put it on a poll once upon a time and it didn't win. So I will find, I don't know what genre we're doing next month, but obviously I'm feeling forlorn for a bygone era. Maybe I'll find a way to sneak in, like we'll do another decade or something. We'll do like 60s or 70s movies or something.
That would be sick.
Find a way to creep them in, or something like that. Some classics.
Because on the dad comment, that's very apt. Like this.
Maybe that's the genre then. Dad movies.
Don Draper would like watch this and like he would take his son to it and be like, and just like it feels mature for a mature man to watch, to watch this. And I feel like it does a great job at taking that kind of the pulp and putting it to film.
That reminds me. Okay, yep. God, 1968 was a great year for movies though, because it's like I'm pretty sure that's the same year because speaking of Don Draper, the same year Planet of the Apes came out. And then obviously in Mad Men he goes and sees Planet of the Apes with Bobby. Yeah. So it's Bullitt was playing in the other theater, but they decided to see Planet of the Apes instead.
Yeah.
But 2001 came out that year, and Night of the Living Dead came out that year. So
yeah, I was gonna say I know Night of the Living Dead was 60s, but I didn't know if it was 68 or 69. Yeah, dude. Oh my god.
Yeah, pretty cool. So
it's a good year for film, pretty much every year, man. There's a lot of films coming out, baby.
This movie, closing thoughts. Or you said we didn't do it. What's your favorite scene?
What was your favorite scene? So, I still back up that scene between his wife, him and his girlfriend thing. I did enjoy that because I was like, oh man, this is like, if they focused on that style of movie, it would be really cool to have Steve McQueen, like Bullitt's character, interact with people like a genuine human being instead of just kind of brooding his way through it.
I do think a modern Bullitt would kind of play more, like they would do more with his character. I think like the emotional, like him being desensitized is like very washed over in this movie.
Nuggets. Yeah, there are great nuggets through it. Like when he fucking, I love this sequence when he's leaving and he's at the hospital and the nurse goes, "Are you that cop that hasn't eaten?" And he's just like, you see that like genuine, like, "Oh yes, like thank you." And then that is like master craft in filmmaking. When he eats, he has it. Then he's like it's all the blocking and choreography between him eating that and then that room where the doctor comes in, the police come in. They do a really good job at that procedural stuff right there.
Clones of People too says the editing is great, and I agree because that's what
is great. The cinematography is poop, but the editing is amazing.
That's what makes the like, even though I said like the scenes are like drawn out, but what makes the whole movie flow is the editing. You know what I mean? That's what makes it work, and especially during the more intense sequences. Certainly. And it's funny because that scene that you mentioned when he's like, "Are you the cop that hasn't eaten?" For a second there, he's like, "Oh yeah," grabs it, and there's a cop standing behind him. I thought the cop was like, "Oh fuck!" Like it was his. It was
I'm
his.
So hungry.
It was for him, and Bullitt's just so conceited. He's like, "Yeah, that's me. Like I'm the guy." The cop's there. He's like, "Oh fuck, that was my milk. I need it. I have diabetes."
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, I guess other than the chase scene, obviously, which is probably the actual highlight of the movie, but that goes without saying. That's why it's on all the posters, which again, I'm going to reiterate, for driving movie month, you fucks. I'm glad I watched this movie, but I'm like, there's barely any there's more driving in Vertigo.
Yeah, 100%. I know.
Unfortunately,
I didn't think this was going to be standing in rooms and looking kind of movie.
Yeah, the plane drives longer. Anyway.
Yeah. What's your favorite?
My actual probably favorite, and it's like, I don't know, it's just because it just got me hard, but the title sequence. And I mean, that may sound dumb. Because title sequence may sound lame because it doesn't really but it set the stage so good. And for the era, it was like technically very impressive. Like the titles, like back then you had to fucking do them manually and everything.
Yeah, you like
And
literally had to like build them manually. It's wild.
Yeah, they had like the fucking names drop out and then the name, like the silhouette stay and cut into the next scene. And like they were
cool.
It's so good. And like with the music, like from that first like violin sting when it comes on, I was like,
yeah,
all right, I'm in.
Yeah.
And I guess that's why I was left so bummed out, because it's like for the first 30 minutes, I was like, I have a feeling this is going to be a 4.5 star movie for me. Like this is going to be a fucking all-timer.
Well, I agree actually. I
was ready to love it.
Yeah, exactly. I kept waiting for like, because I was like, oh, this is gonna have like, I'm gonna be surprised about how much heart-pounding action this movie has. but then it just never. It was like when it happened, I was like, oh, this is it. I've seen this is as heart-pounding as it's gonna get.
And that is
so
the era too. You know, back
fine.
then it's like, you know, it would be.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the like drawn out. And it's like there are some scenes that do the tension really well, and then they crescendo into the action scenes, right? Especially because it's like they kind of brought it back. I was really pissed off about the airport chase sequence. I thought it was so drawn out, and but when they get back in there, the cat and mouse, and he's looking for him, and the music's building back up, and then he just fucking panics and runs out, and then gets shot like 4 times in the middle of the thing. Like that brought it all around where I was just like, oh, okay, that was tense. Built up, fucking steam valve release, pap, pap, pap. And the violence obviously looks great. And apparently first time squibs, it's fucking dope. I'm all there for it. So it kind of brought it back for me a little bit. So yeah, I'm glad. It's still a fun movie. I would go back and watch I'll watch the chase scene again. I'll watch the chase scene on YouTube.
Happy.
Sure.
Yeah.
Me too. And
I'm glad that I've seen it. So.
Well, and it makes me, like I said, it's like, it's tickling something for me. You know what I mean? Like, that's why we went to driving from last month. Now this is tickling something. So anyway, that's Bullitt. Check it out. Everyone that watched it, thank you.
What
next?
What one for next week?
I was scared there for a minute, and I put it on there because I'm like, I want to have a variety. And Talladega Nights almost won, but it didn't.
That's what I voted for.
Did you vote for Talladega Nights?
I voted because I've never seen it, and everyone, it's like one of those, like I've seen like, or I've heard like the endless quotes, but
it's funny.
I've never seen it.
It's one of the most 2006 movies ever made. So
right, I know that's what I know. It's right in that Judd Apatow pocket, baby. But The Hitcher is a movie I have never seen either, and I really want to.
Yeah, The Hitcher won, and that's been on my list for quite a long time. That's what I voted for. And it's funny because I thought Hitcher was going to be the underdog. I thought for sure Mad Max was going to win. I thought Mad Max was going to run away with it.
Me too.
For a car movie, everyone thinks about Mad Max. And Talladega Nights was the only movie that I have seen on this list. So that's why I was like, because I've never seen Mad Max 2.
Yeah, no, Mad Max 2 is great.
I've never seen. I thought I did. I thought I'd seen Road Warrior, but then I'd seen just a part of it. And I'm like, I've never seen the whole thing. So we'll find a way to watch that sometime. We'll do.
It'd be fun. Yeah, it'd be fun to do all the Mad Max before Furiosa comes out, maybe.
Yeah, well, and we've done Dystopia, but I think it might be kind of fun to lean full because Dystopia was like implies a better society. I don't know. We can do a month of leaning full post-apocalyptic. Might be kind of fun.
Yeah.
Might scratch an itch because there's quite a few movies that would fit that but wouldn't fit the other. So anyway, so everyone, thank you for listening, first of all, for making it through this episode. I know we had a rough start.
Yeah. No, we're edit.
I am for sure, but either way. It was...
You know what's funny though, real quick? I'm doing the poll right now, and production design is kind of an odd category for this film particularly.
Yeah.
Because Bullitt was shot 100% on location. There wasn't a single set.
Really? That hospital felt like a set to me.
Nope. It's all 100% donated by San Francisco.
So weird.
And it's all practical. That's a real hospital. They were they cut off that floor and they used a real hospital above and below. Dead people are dying. Real emergencies are happening, and they're filming on one.
That is what's fascinating because
wild,
it is like a time capsule because it really does just seem like an abandoned warehouse or something like that. Hospital. It's just like some room.
The Exorcist is the one that really
Exorcist
shows
3, right?
like modern medicine, and you're like, oh my god, it looks fucking prehistoric. It looks like torture devices.
Yeah, seriously.
Crazy.
Yeah. So, yeah, production design. I don't know. I'll go through and tweak some of those because I added stunts.
I love production design
for this
Texas.
month. I try to add like one
stuff.
specific for the month that will kind of contain, because I probably won't put stunts, when we're watching First Cow or whatever.
Baby, there's some stunts. He's in a tree.
Yeah, that's true.
First Cow's amazing.
Anyway, so thank you for everyone. Go watch The Hitcher, not the 2007 remake. Go watch the 86 or something, the 80s Hitcher. I'm going to check it out. I'm looking forward to it. I've been wanting to watch that movie, but I'm going to lower my expectations because look where that gets me. So go to the Reddit, check out the YouTubes, come comment, come vote on movies, come do the surveys. It's not like, when I say survey, it's not like a whole thing. It's just, if you don't want to like type a whole fucking, like, clones are people too, God bless you. If you don't want to type a whole thing like he does, just go to do the survey, where you're just rating out of 10, basically, the different aspects of the movie, which I think is kind of fun.
And we're not making any money off of these surveys or anything wild.
No, it's not like
there's no information.
It's not like you have to put in your email.
Personal information or anything. Yeah. You just go and you just click on it. So
well,
we'd love to have your feedback.
It's a slightly more in-depth letterbox, which I would love to see your guys' letterbox or something, but it's our version. For us in our community, our film club. Woo!
You can be part of that community.
Film club. Anyway, so thanks. That's it.
Good night. Come support us on Patreon.
Yep.
Come to Reddit.
Let's all go to the lobby.
Tell your friend.
Tell your friend.
Okay.
The lobby.
There it is.
All right,
nice.
bye.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, we're not editing anymore. It's just you.
Let's all go. Hi, future Levi. Okay, bye.
Bye.